Before we come out of Deuteronomy, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 31, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. And this is where Yah tells Moses that the people are going to sin, and I'm going to kick them out. It's predicted by Yah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And the subtitle to this verse is Yasharal's rebellion predicted.
Right.
Yah said to Moses, "Now the day of your death is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting, where I will commission him." So Moshe and Joshua came and
So who is that?
presented.
You said Moshe. You mean Moses?
I mean to say Moses. That's how his name is pronounced in the Hebrew, but I should say Moses so you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Moses and Joshua came and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. Verse 15. Then Yah appeared at the tent in a pillar of cloud, and the cloud stood over the entrance to the tent. And Yah said to Moses, "You are going to rest with your father." In other words, you get ready to die. You old. So that's why Joshua going to take your place. So he says, "You are going to rest with your father. And these people will soon prostitute themselves to foreign power of the land they are entering. They will forsake me and break the agreement I made with them. On that day, I will become angry with them and forsake them. I will hide my face from them, and they will be destroyed. Many disasters and difficulties will come upon them, and on that day, they will ask, have not these disasters come upon us because our all-powerful is not with us? And I will certainly hide my face from that day because of all their wickedness and turn to other gods."
Okay, so now let's fast forward, go to Matthew chapter 23.
We're going to read the whole chapter because right here, Yahshua, he's talking to the so-called religious leaders, the Pharisees. And the Pharisees are basically the main ones that had him crucified. They gave him up to the Romans because they were jealous of him. The people were listening more to Yahshua than to the so-called religious leaders, the Pharisees. So he's telling the Pharisees these things, the so-called religious leaders of our people, the preachers.
You get that?
Yes.
The people are listening to the Messiah, Yahshua. They're not listening to the religious leaders, the Pharisees. Those are the religious leaders,
right.
What we would call today the preachers.
Okay.
They had stopped listening to them and started listening to the Messiah.
Okay.
So these are, the Messiah is addressing the so-called preachers back then.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay? You got it?
Yep, got it.
Verse 1. Then Yahshua spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees have seated themselves in the chair of Moses. Therefore, all that they tell you, do and observe." So he basically saying, these are your religious leaders. They got the same authority Moshe have, but they crooked. They ain't so righteous as they pretend to be, but do what they tell you to do, but don't do what you see them doing.
But why would he say, and that's part that I don't understand sometimes, why would he tell them to obey but not do what they say? Do as I...
They got the authority. They the leaders. They the religious leaders. So the people basically got to do what they say, or they will suffer penalties and be ostracized and kicked out of the church. But he said, do what they tell you to do, but don't do what you see them doing. Because they say one thing, but they do what they tell you not to do.
Okay, gotcha.
Verse 3.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, all that they tell you, do and observe, but do not do according to their deeds. For they say things and do not do them. That's just like our ministers today. They tell you, don't go do that. Don't go sleep with your brother's wife or your neighbor's wife. Then next thing, a month later, you hear about them in the news, they don't win the did that.
All right.
Verse 4. And they tie up heavy loads and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as a finger. In other words, they put a lot of rules and regulations on people, knowing people can't keep. You know, you got to tie 10% every Sunday. Everybody can't do that. You're putting pressure on people, making people say, if I don't tithe, I ain't going to make it into heaven. But that's what the preacher said we got to do. That's not written.
So it's not written.
Tithing was for the Levitical priesthood. Our people were bringing the priests crops and wine to support them because they weren't allowed to work.
Well, I know they put it into practice. I read about where that came from, that tithing was not, that was something that they came up with, not something that was actually written.
No, tithing is written. It was under the Levitical priesthood, the old order of our people. See, since we've been kicked out of the land and are slaves, we don't have a Levitical priesthood anymore. That was dissolved. When the Messiah came, he did away with that. That was the only thing in the law that was changed, because back then our people used to offer up lambs and goats and slaughter those things and bring bread and drink offerings for their trespasses, for their sins they're committed. So that was under the old Levitical order. But see, when the Messiah came, he did away with that animal sacrifice. All that was under the Levitical order, which was the tithing and all that. So the Messiah done away with that. It's a new order now. So that was something that was established back then. But see, that's the only thing that the Christian churches adhere to as far as of the law today is the tithing. But the tithing, that portion of what our people was doing at that time, that is over with, because there's no more Levitical priesthood to bring the tithes into and to support them, because they were the only ones that weren't allowed to go and work because they were the ministers of Yah. So they stayed in the temple. So they weren't allowed to go out and work. So the people had to come and bring the Levitical priests wine and grain and lambs and goats.
At what point did it get back in there where it says 10%? Where'd that number come from?
No, what Yah was telling the people, bring to the priest an offering, give a tenth. He didn't say 10%. He said give a tenth of your goods, meaning the first yield of your crops. Because back then, wealth was decided by how many sheep, goats, bulls, how much land, how much produce that you had. That was how your wealth was decided, and your gold and silver. But see, back then, Yah told the people, bring an offering to the priest. Bring a tenth of everything that you harvest in from your land, because the priests were ministers of Yah, and they could not go out and work like everybody else. So it was the community that supported the priest. And the priest, what the people did was brought up a tenth of all their produce to support the priest. So what the Christian ministers do today, they say, no, God said give 10% of your earnings. That is not written. Y'all didn't say give 10% of our earnings to any priest, well, not priests, but ministers today, because there's no more Levitical order. The Messiah came and established a new order. So that old order where they was given that tenth, that was done away with.
There's priest and minister. You seems like you make a distinction between the two.
What we're talking about, they're actually, in today's term, they'll be called preachers. In those old days, in the times of the Messiah, they were called scribes and Pharisees.
Pharisees meaning?
So we're talking about the same religious body.
What's a Pharisee?
A Pharisee is a religious leader.
Okay.
The same, what we would call today a preacher.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
The priests were the ones who did the service, who were the ministers, the ones that kept up the temple. See, we don't have a temple anymore, so therefore we don't have any more earthly priests.
Right.
But today we do have ministers, or the ones who call themselves earthly ministers or preachers.
I see.
So
Okay.
yeah, I had to make that distinction because I was trying to give you understanding about that 10th and that 10%.
Gotcha.
The preachers today say 10%, but that's not written. Under the old order of things, the Levitical priesthood, they were told, the people were told to bring a 10th of all their possessions. So that's what I was trying to, their produce, that's what I was trying to get you to, you know, to be able to have an understanding. So when he's reading about the Pharisees, you'll know that back then those would be your religious leaders, as these religious leaders are today. They're just one and the same, in other words, okay?
Okay, gotcha. All right.
We're going back to verse 1, 23 and verse 1, okay?
Sounds good.
Then Yeshua spoke to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the preachers and the deacons have seated themselves in the chair of Moses. Therefore, all that they tell you, do and observe, but do not do according to their deeds. For they say things and do not do them. Mm-hmm. And they count heavy loads and make them on men and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are unwilling to move them with so much as a finger. Mm-hmm. But they do all their deeds to be noticed by men, for they widen their robes and lengthen the tassels of their garments, and they love the place of honor at banquets and the chief seats in the synagogue, and respectful greetings in the marketplaces, and being called by men reverend. But do not be called reverend, for one is your teacher, and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth your father, for one is your Father who is in heaven. And do not be called leaders, for one is your leader, that is the Messiah. But the greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoever exalts himself shall be humbled. And whoever humbles himself shall be exalted. But woe to you deacons and preachers, hypocrites, because you shut off the kingdom of heaven from men, but you do not enter in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Woe to you deacons and preachers, hypocrites, because you devour widows' houses, even while for a pretense you make long prayers. Therefore you shall receive greater condemnation.
Understand praying and making all them long prayers so people, they can pray on people's sympathy in their heart to make them come out of their pocket. And that's what he's saying right there. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Woe to you deacons and preachers, hypocrites, because you travel about on sea and land to make one convert. And when he becomes one, you make him twice as much a son of hell as yourself.
So basically what this is saying is they're traveling the earth trying to convert people, and every time they convert somebody, that person is going to hell.
They make the person just as worse as they are.
Yeah. So
they're not righteous. See, they ain't doing what y'all says do. They not even following the 10 Commandments.
Right.
They out there sleeping with their neighbors' wives. They out there robbing. They out there going to the club. So when people see them do it, say, oh, Victor do it, so I guess it must be all right.
16.
Woe to you blind guys who say, whoever swears by the temple, that's nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he is obligated. You fools and blind men, which is more important, the gold or the temple that purifies the gold?
Okay, go back. In 16, it says, you say if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by oath. What is it saying there? What is it talking about?
So, and like saying somebody say, I swear by the temple, I'm going to do this, that, or the other. And Messiah says, that ain't nothing. You should swear by what's in the temple. It's not the building that's important. It's what's in the building that makes the building important, basically.
Right. So at that time, well, I ain't going to say at that time, what he's saying is, what's greater? The one who sanctified the temple or this daggone building? Because the building can be tore up. But what's inside the building that can't be destroyed, that's more important than this daggone building. So that's what he's telling them.
Let's read it again.
You follow?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, he's going to read it again.
Verse 16, recap. Woe to you blind guys who say, whoever swears by the temple, that's nothing. That's what they were telling people. If you say whoever swears by the temple, you got to do it. That's a big thing if you swear by the temple. But the Messiah said that ain't nothing. Swearing by this building, it's just a building. What's important in it is the gold that makes the building important.
So let me ask you this, because when I read this, it sounds like they're saying that the people would say, if you swear by the temple, that means nothing. But if you swear by the gold, that means everything. That's what it sounds like the people were saying, and that he's saying, no, you got to be crazy. The gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred. So it sounds like he's saying, no, it's the temple that makes the gold sacred, not the gold that's sacred. That's what it sounds like. Or am I misreading that?
No, you got it backwards. It's the gold that makes the temple sanctified, not the temple itself.
Okay.
The temple is just made out of wood.
Okay.
Wood can rot.
Right.
But gold it will never rot. It's imperishable.
Okay. So
that's what he's saying. Don't swear by something that can rot and decay. Swear by something that can't decay, like gold. That's a precious metal. It don't rust or nothing. It keeps its value. You with me?
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Let us know there if you don't understand it.
Well, I mean, I was just trying to. I'm just trying, because what I was almost understanding is that they were trying to respect the gold and the temple when there's things inside the temple that are intangible. That's what I was thinking, that they're missing the intangible part of the blessing, and the temple or the gold are not worth anything. That's what I thought, and then I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding this whole thing.
Let's read it again. Verse 16.
Uh-huh.
Woe to you blind guys who say, whoever swears by the temple, that's nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he is obligated.
Right. So now that part, before you go on, that part says, he's quoting somebody. Woe to you who say this. Woe to you people who say, swear by the gold.
No, they were saying swear by the temple. See, that was the saying back then with the Pharisees, the religious leaders. They were saying that if anybody say, I swear by the temple, they got to do whatever they say they're going to do. But they don't swear by the temple.
Well, let me ask you, because this is a quote right here. I see this where it says, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath. Well, that's these people saying, in quotes, because he's saying, woe you blind guides, you people who say, if you swear by the temple, it means nothing. And if you swear by the gold of the temple, then you're bound by oath. So it sounds like he's quoting these people who have said this, that the people back then were saying, if you swear by the gold, you're bound by oath. That's what he's saying. Sounds like to me. But it's almost saying, if you believe that, then you're a blind fool. That these people said to swear by the gold, and he's saying that you're a blind fool. I mean, that's what it looks like. Woe to you, you blind guides, you people who are saying, if you swear by the temple, then that means nothing. But if you swear by the gold, then he is bound by his oath. So you guys are blind if you believe that you're supposed to be swearing by the gold. That's what I'm getting from this part.
No, you got it backwards. You said if you say you swear by the temple, that's nothing. Swear by the gold that makes the temple important.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm reading. It says the people who said this, in quotes, it says, do you have a quote after it says, you say, quote, if anyone swears by the temple? Do y'all have quotes after that? At that point?
We got quotes.
So it sounds like, is this it sounds like, who is this talking right here?
This is the Messiah talking.
So it sounds like God is saying, you blind people who are saying these things in quotes. Like he's saying, if you believe this stuff that's in quotes, you blind. And in these quotes, it sounds like it's saying, if you swear by the temple, it means nothing. But if you swear by the gold, then you're bound by oath. And that sounds like he's saying, you people are blind fools if you believe these things that's in these quotes. And in these quotes, it's saying to swear by the gold, which sounds to me like he's saying you ain't supposed to be swearing by the gold. You're blind. At least that's what.
You're getting it mixed up. That's not what he's saying.
Okay.
Let me see something. Turn right here. What verse? Right here, 16. Okay. Okay. Verse 16. He says, "Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple, that is nothing. But whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he is obligated. You fools and blind men, which is more important, the gold or the temple that purifies the gold?"
So let me ask you this, and go back, because does it say purify or makes? Because
No, it says purify in our book.
Okay, so if you go back to that first part, it's that first part that I'm trying to understand, because in that is saying that you are foolish if you believe, and this is what I'm looking. I don't know any other way to read that, because I'm sitting here looking at it, that he's saying if you believe in it, that the gold of the temple makes you bound, then you're foolish. That's what that looks like it's saying. That everybody who believes this stuff in these quotes, in which those quotes say, if you're bound by the gold, then you're bound by his oath.
Okay, let me try to put it a little plain. That's just like, for instance, if I'm trying to get you to believe something, and I say to you, I swear by the temple that what I'm telling you is true. What the Messiah is saying, if you swear by the temple ain't nothing, because the temple gonna be torn down anyway. But it would have been better for you to say to her, I swear to you by the gold of the temple.
Okay, so
because the gold in the temple is more important than that building, because the building gonna be torn down, but the gold never loses its value. You can take it with you. So he says anybody that says they swear by the gold of the temple, that means whatever you said, you obligated to carry out your word. But if you say that you swear by the temple by itself, the temple ain't nothing.
Well, why would he?
But in
why
other
would he call
words,
them
to make
foolish?
your oath a binding agreement, something strong, say you swear by the gold of the temple.
Why?
Because the gold is worth more than the building.
Why would he call them blind? He said, woe to you blind guides. You said, and these are the people who said this, because what you just said is swear by the gold. Well, that's what they said, but he called them blind. He said, woe to you blind guides. You say, like you people are saying, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. And you people are saying, if anybody swears by the gold of the temple, then he is bound by oath. You people are blind. That's what he just said. So then you're saying the opposite of what this thing is saying, because it's saying, hold up, you blind people, you people are saying, quote, like this guy saying, whoa, you blind guys, you say, and I quote, if you swear by the temple, it means nothing. So these are blind people who are saying, if you swear by the temple, then it doesn't mean a thing. But if you swear by the gold, you all in the house, you good. But he's saying, no, you people are blind. If you are saying these things, that's what it looks like to me, because it's in quotes.
Okay, I see where you coming from, but that's no. When he's saying blind guides, because that's what he's calling these religious leaders, these deacons and preachers.
Right.
He's telling them, first of all, y'all blind in the first place. Y'all don't have no understanding. You don't see anything. Y'all are telling the people. This is him telling them, the blind, the deacons and the preachers, y'all blind guys. Y'all telling the people, swear by the temple. That's what y'all telling the people, to make an oath, secure, say y'all swear by the temple.
Let me ask you a question, because that's not what he's saying.
Yes, it is. What he says right here, he says, woe to you blind guys who say, whoever swears by the temple. So
it means nothing.
Hold on. Those are the religious leaders. He's quoting what they're telling people.
Exactly.
That y'all that say swear by the temple.
It means
but
nothing.
Messiah,
you stop reading.
That is nothing. But what the Messiah is telling them, that the temple is nothing, but the gold is better than the temple.
I mean, I hear you, but this part is
so
not
that's what he's saying.
Like,
whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he's obligated to carry out his oath that he made. Whatever he swore by, he's obligated to carry it out.
And
so in other
look
words,
at it, but this part is not. I hear what you're saying. This part is reading 100% opposite of what you're saying. This part right here is reading.
Well, you got to remember now, we're dealing with a different translation. It's going to be worded differently in many ways. It depends on what version you're reading from. If you're reading from a King James, we might be word for word. If you're reading from a new NIV, it may be different words in there. So you don't get caught up like that. So what I'm telling you is...
Because I want to understand this, because even what you're saying, when you say God wants you to be bounded by the gold, even that doesn't really even go with all the everything else that we talked about. So I'm just trying to understand. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you what I'm reading is giving me different.
I understand what you're saying, and no, the Messiah is making a synopsis. He's not saying, because basically he tells us not to swear at all, because you don't have the power to change not one hair, black or gray. You ain't got the power to do nothing. So don't swear by heaven or earth. So what he's doing, he's basically in these religious leaders' faces. He's calling them out on the carpet, because they're the ones making these oaths, telling people, swear by the temple. Because at that time, they thought the temple was the greatest thing at that time. They marveled at the temple. The temple was the greatest thing. At that time, our people, if the religious leaders wanted to get back at them, they ostracized them and kept them from coming to the temple. That was a hurtful thing to them, because everybody at that time marveled at the temple.
Well, let me say this.
And that's all he's saying. That's basically what he just, in a nutshell, telling them.
Let me read this real quick.
Huh?
Let me read this real quick, because it says, woe unto you, this is the King James Version, ye blind guides, which say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing, but whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Which a debtor is not a good thing.
It just means, it's another word of saying you obligated. Whatever you swore, you obligated to do. You got to do it. That's all it's saying. You just got to do what you swore.
Okay, and so here it's still saying, you people are saying this, whoever swears by the temple is nothing. And it's like he's calling these people who saying, if you swear by the temple, it's nothing, but if you swear by the gold of the temple, you're debted to that, whatever you said. But he's calling people who say this foolish and blind.
Exactly, because that's what he was saying about the religious leaders, that they were foolish and blind.
But you just said you're supposed to swear by the gold. Are you telling me you're supposed to swear by the gold?
No.
Oh, you're not supposed to swear by the gold.
I didn't say that that's what you're supposed to do. That's what they were saying. That's what the religious leaders were saying to the people, and that's why the Messiah was calling them blind guides and fools, because they were the ones telling the people, you got to swear by the temple. And the Messiah was letting him know, y'all putting all y'all stock in this temple, but what makes the temple so unique? Is it the temple or the things? Hold on. Is it the temple or the things in the temple that make the temple unique?
Okay, but
anybody can build a building, but it's not the building. Hold on, you got to hear what I got to say. It's not the things that. It's not the building that makes the building that's unique. It's the things that's in the building that makes it unique. That's what the Messiah was telling them. That's why he called them fools and blind guides, because y'all are trying to make the people swear by the temple. The temple ain't nothing great about the temple, but it's the things that's within the temple that makes the temple unique.
All right.
That's what the Messiah was saying.
Okay.
You understand me?
No, but I don't. But if you say the things within the temple makes it unique, I totally feel you on that. I 100% understand when you say it's everything within the temple. It's what the temple stands for.
Well, that's what he says in verse 17.
Okay.
If you read verse 17, there it is right there where he says, you fools and blind guides. Which is more important, the gold or the temple? Now he asking them, which one is more important, the gold or the temple? Right.
Okay, but answer the question. Answer the question. That's what I'm saying.
That which sanctifies the gold. It's not the building. It's the gold that's in the building. But when it's all said and done, it's Yah's temple. It was Yah's dwelling place.
Right, but it never answers the question. Where's the question answer?
Hold on for a second. It is Yah's dwelling place. It ain't the gold or the temple that sanctify the place. It's Yah himself, his presence being in the place.
Thank you. That's what I would say. Now you say that, I'm totally with you.
That's what we were trying to get to, but we was trying to help you understand that scripture because you were twisting it up, and I'm like, no, that's not what it's saying.
Now, let me say this. When you talk about the question was never answered. Which one is greater, the temple or the temple or the gold? The question was never answered, and if you ask me, I say it's neither one of them. It's neither one of them. So when you tell me that he's telling you that the gold binds it, I don't understand it. And plus, when I read this verse 100 times, I can't read it no different. To me, what it's saying, and I'm just telling you, I hear you, I heard what you said, but when I read it, it's saying that these people were telling these people to swear by the gold. And he said, you're foolish for that. Now, if you're asking me this question, which one is it, the gold or the temple? I would say it's neither one of them. But the question is never answered in here. So I'm just asking questions because I don't, like I said, I'm just telling you what I see. And the question seems to never have been
and I understand it. And see, that's what we're trying to get you to understand is that's what the Messiah was bringing to them. He was actually trying to make them think. Since they're supposed to be the religious leaders, supposed to be the wise men, he was posing to them the same thing that you're saying. Really, when it's all said and done, neither one of these things are important. So therefore, you shouldn't swear by the temple or the gold in the temple, because really, what's important is the person who sanctifies both the temple and the gold that is within it, and that is Yah himself.
Okay, well I can agree with that. We at 18 now.
So that's all he was saying. A lot of things that the Messiah was saying, he was speaking in parables. So a lot of things you're not going to get right off the bat, so we have to elaborate on those because that's how he spoke to them. He was basically telling them off in their face. Sometimes they got it, and sometimes they didn't get it. And this is just a scenario where he was pointing out to them of things that they were doing that he wasn't pleased by.
Right. Okay. All right, so we at 18.
All right, let's move forward.
Okay, verse 18. And whoever swears by the altar, that's nothing. But whoever swears by the offering upon it, he is obligated. 19. You blind men, which is more important, the offering or the altar that purifies the offering? Therefore,
which one? Which one is it?
What?
Answer. The question is not answered.
No, because he's making them think. He's standing there questioning them since they're supposed to be the religious leader of these people. He's asking them questions that they cannot answer. But as we know today, Yah is greater than the temple, the gold, and anything else. Yah is greater than the offering, the altar, and anything else.
So again, it's neither. That's another answer. Is neither. Neither one of those.
Exactly.
Okay.
But see, they're not going to answer that because the thing is, that the religious leader the religious body at that time, the temple was the greatest thing to them.
Okay, right. Yeah, so I was just
That's
looking
what
at
their
this.
whole concern was about, was the temple. The temple was the greatest thing to them.
Yeah, I was just looking at this question, which is greater, again, the gift or the altar, which makes the gift sacred. I mean, I guess for me, again, neither one of those. Is that the
Yeah,
answer?
of course, we both can say neither one because Yah is greater than all those things.
Right.
But
Okay.
in this sense of what he's talking about, if you did have to judge, then you can say the gold because the gold is more rare than the materials that was used to build the temple. In this instance, when it says the altar or the offering, it is the altar. Because the offering, that's just what you came to lay on the altar. There has to be something there first in order for you to be able to offer. So these are the unique things of Yah in his temple, or what the priests were using to offer offerings to him. But see, that's a whole nother thing that we will have to do some real studying and reading for you to understand that. So that's why I can see you.
Yeah,
you kind of wrestling with this because you have to know our customs.
Well, here's my thing. I mean, one of my issues with, the Bible for so long is that it can be interpreted so many. And for me, it's like I just want to know what it is. All this, if you're gonna ask a question, for me, I'm like, answer the question and see. Now we sitting here going, well, which one is it? And it's not. And because for me, it's not in this book. It's not written because I want to see it written. And because it's not written, it kind of, I'm just be honest, it kind of gets to me because it's like I want to see it. I don't want it to be where you can interpret it one way and I can interpret it another way. And I'm sitting here reading and I see in quotes that it's saying one thing and then you saying something opposite. I like to see it written. And so when I look at this, I don't, some of this I don't see what you're saying because it's not written here. It's like assumed. It's like, I can assume this and I don't want to assume nothing. I want to know for fact what it is.
Okay. To answer to that, the scripture, first of all, is not of any man's private interpretation, and that's why I say you have to be familiar with scripture, and you have to know our culture in order to understand what the Messiah is posing to the religious leaders. If you are not knowledgeable of those things, then this is going to trip you up. That's why you have to be familiar with what the written word has to say. Then you can understand what the Messiah was actually saying to these religious leaders, why he posed this question to them. So there's no need for us to go back and forth because you don't have that knowledge of the culture. And once you go back in the early books, in the first 5 books, and get familiar with the culture, then you can come back to the same scripture, and then you can say, oh, okay, now I understand what he was saying. Because it all goes back to the Levitical priesthood and the things that were set up in the temple, the offerings, the lampstands, all those sacred objects that were put in the temple. But if you don't have any understanding of those, you're not going to understand what the Messiah is talking about. So therefore, we can wrestle back and forth, and I can't make you understand because you don't have any knowledge of those particular things about when it talks about the temple. So
I understand
no need to wrestle.
I mean, it's not that. It's just that when the way I'm reading it, it's saying something different than what you're saying. That's all I was saying. It just
okay, but just like I said, scripture is not of any man's private interpretation. I'm not going to try to interpret something I know that just because this is how I feel.
Right.
That's not how scripture works.
Well, that's cool. All right, so where we at? 20?
Verse 20.
Therefore, he who swears by the altar swears both by the altar and by everything on it. And he who swears by the temple swears both by the temple and by him who dwells in it. And he who swears by heaven swears both by the throne of the All-Powerful and by him who sits upon it. Woe to you, deacons and preachers, hypocrites, for you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier provisions of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. But these are the things you should have done without neglecting the others. You blind guys who strain out at a gnat but swallow a camel.
What does that mean?
Woe to
What does that mean? You strain out at a gnat but swallow a camel. What does that mean?
In a nutshell, y'all swear by the temple and the gold and the altar and all that mess, which is nothing. What y'all should have been trying to teach the people how to live justly and exercising mercy and faithfulness. That's what's more important than y'all saying, oh, if you gonna carry out your obligations, swear by the temple, or swear by the gold, or swear by the altar. The Messiah is saying, no, while y'all doing all that mess, you should have been trying to teach the people how to walk in righteousness,
Okay.
how to be faithful.
Okay, gotcha.
That's what he was saying.
All right.
They was neglecting those simple things, and then when he says, you strain at a gnat and swallow a camel, those little bitty issues, y'all make a big thing out of little bitty things that's as small as a gnat. But the huge things, like our people were committing adultery, our people were idol worshipers, our people were becoming sodomites and Gomorrites and doing all these abominable things in the sight of Yah, they let that slide.
Okay.
And so that's what the Messiah was saying. Y'all strain at a gnat. You strain at the littlest thing, but these big things where you know you should have been passing the judgments of Yah against the people, you let that pass.
Good
You
job.
swallow a camel.
That's good.
You took a bribe. So that's all the Messiah is saying.
Okay.
So he uses different analogies and so forth. So you follow?
Yeah, I got that. Good one. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, let's go.
Verse 24 recap. You blind guys who strain out a gnat but swallow camels. Woe to you deacons and preachers, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside they are full of robbery and self-indulgence.
Okay, pause right there. What the Messiah is saying there is, y'all clean up the outside. You got on your nice suits, you got on your nice dresses and your hats. You look good on the outside. You look like you're righteous. You got all the people to see, but inside, y'all ain't full of nothing but robbery. And y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of crooks. But the people are deceived because they're blinded by your clothing, how nice you look. So that's what he's saying right there. Recap there. Read that again.
Woe to you deacons and preachers, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and of the dish, but inside they are full of robbery and self-indulgence. Verse 26. You blind ministers, first clean the inside of the cup and of the dish, so that the outside of it may become clean also.
So that means he's telling them, you should have been trying to get rid of that old wicked man. Then you clean out the inside, that old wicked man, and let the new man come about, since you call yourself being a preacher. So you should want to be an example to the people of how to live.
Right.
Don't just put on nice clothes and fool the people by, because that's how we are today. We look at the ministers and our women preachers and, oh, she dressed so nice, she live in a big house, she got nice cars and all this. We look at them as being righteous. But they not righteous, because look at the wickedness that they do.
Right.
So it's not about appearance. It's about the inner man, your character inside, that men see and say, this is a good man, because they walk right. They do what they say they're going to do. See, that's what the Messiah was telling these religious leaders back then. Y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of hypocrites, a bunch of phonies, a bunch of liars, a crooks and thieves. Y'all not the people that should be ministering to the people, because look how wicked y'all are. Y'all want the people to do right, but y'all don't want to do right.
In a nutshell, everything that look good ain't good.
Exactly.
Everybody look pretty and handsome and everything, they may be just evil as folks. But the worst-looking people who don't dress nice, can't hardly do for themselves, may be the most righteous person that you will ever meet.
I can
It's not
testify
about
to that.
looks that he's saying.
I can
It's not
testify
that
to
inner
that.
man that we should be concerned about. Not about fooling people with our good appearance.
Right.
But that's to get people to stop the God. But that's how Satan was. But he was the most beautiful messenger. But he turned out to be the most evilest thing on the earth.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can testify to that. That, you know, as far as people who look nice and have the nicer cars and, you know, dress nice, and they are very, I mean, I've met some, and I can't say all of them are that way, but I can tell you also that I've met some people who look like they were down and out, car broke down and everything, but they'll give you everything they got. If they have it, they're giving it to you. So,
good
yeah.
heart.
They got a naturally good heart.
They humble and everything.
Yeah.
So that's what the Messiah is making. He's making a distinction between the religious leaders and the people who are really the people who really care and really want to follow the ways of Yah.
All right.
But see, the religious leaders were keeping them from that.
Right.
So that's what he was saying. You know, you shut up the way for the people who want to know righteousness. Y'all head them off at the path. Y'all don't want to teach them righteousness. But y'all go way across the countryside to convert one person, and y'all making twofold the child of hell. Y'all making just as worse as he was before he ever even heard the truth.
Right.
So, you know, he's making a distinction between righteous men and wicked men. That's
Right.
what he's doing. Let's continue.
27.
Okay, we have verse 27, because woe to you, deacons and ministers, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside appear beautiful, but inside they are full of dead men's bones and all unclean. Even so, you too outwardly appear righteous to men, but inwardly you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, deacons and ministers, hypocrites, for you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had been living in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partners with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. Consequently, you bear witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets.
So right there what the Messiah is saying, y'all talking about, you know, okay, you look all good and the people think you all that, but really you ain't nothing. And then y'all turn around and say, man, if we were living back there in the days of our forefathers, the prophets, man, we wouldn't have been like our people, killing off the prophets and all the righteous men of Yah. But to this very day, their wickedness, their acts testify that they are the same descendants that would have killed off the prophets back then. Because look at them. Y'all say keep the Sabbath. What they do? They go to church on Sunday. Y'all say keep his holy days. What they do? They keep Christmas, Easter, all these pagan traditions that they learn from their captors. They don't do nothing that y'all say do. Nothing. So their own works testify that they would have did the same thing our forefathers did back then, killed the prophets also. They children of those who killed the prophets. So that's what he's saying.
So are you saying the Seventh-day Adventists, which is a religion, are they more on point, or are they just as bad as, or what?
The Seventh-day Adventists is another European sect that's trying to stake claim, and they still off too. It's
Okay.
another religious head. That's all it is, another religious organization.
All right. So we're on 37, I think. No.
So
No.
we're at
32.
32.
Okay.
Verse 32.
So pick it back up and recap 31.
Okay, recapping verse 31. Consequently, you bear witness against yourselves that you are sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of the guilt of your fathers. You serpent, you brood of vipers, how shall you escape the sentence of hell? Therefore, behold, I am sending you prophets and wise men and scribes. Some of them you will kill and crucify, and some of them you will whip in your synagogues and persecute from city to city. That upon you
Is that persecute for you, or is that pursue?
Persecute.
Okay.
Persecute from city to city.
Okay, because this thing says pursue. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 35. That upon you may fall the guilt of all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple of the altar. So he telling that generation, he said, y'all so wicked. Y'all want to kill me so bad because I'm telling y'all the truth, and the people listening to me started listening to me instead of you. Y'all want to kill me. So all the bloodshed that has happened since Abel to Zechariah, all this going to come on this generation. Truly, I say to you, all these things shall come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets and stoned those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. But you were unwilling. They didn't believe him, who he said he was. They didn't recognize that his coming. Verse 38, behold, your house is being left to you desolate. Now that's a prophecy. He's telling them, your house going to be destroyed. 70 years after I'm dead, y'all crucify me, have me crucified. The Romans going to come and destroy y'all.
It said how many years?
70 years. In 70 AD, the Romans came and destroyed Jerusalem.
Does it say that in some other place where it gives the actual time? I'm just wondering if it's in there where it says 70 years, or is that?
No, but it's a historical fact that the city fell 70 years after the crucifixion of the Messiah in 70 AD.
Okay, so it says, look at your house. Look at your houses. Look, your house is left to you desolate. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 38, behold, your house is being left to you desolate. So once the Romans come 70 years later, they're going to desolate Jerusalem.
Okay.
Verse 39, for I say to you, from now on, you shall not see me until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yah. So he said, since y'all denied me, didn't believe me, and then on top of all that, had me killed, delivered me over to the Romans, I'm not going to do nothing for y'all till y'all acknowledge that I am who I am.
Okay, you know what? I guess for me, when I was reading it, it was I almost felt a sense of despair, because we haven't changed, and I don't see us changing. I mean, based on what we've talked about now, we come out of a bondage with the Pharaoh. We go back into the land. We screw up again. We go back for another punishment for 400 years. We still screwing up. You know, we're dressing nice and looking nice, but we're not being the people who we're saying we are. So he's supposed to come again soon. And I feel despair, because I feel like even once we go back, we're going to be punished again. It's like, you know, it's never ending for us, but we are supposedly his people, but because we can't get right, we still keep getting punished, but we are his people. And I'm like,
no,
go ahead.
No, no, we going to get it right this time, because just like y'all said, as far as watching these next couple of years, these next 7 years, about the last of our tenure here in America, watch how bad it get on our people, because like we've read all day long and all night, y'all gonna destroy them hard-headed ones. Our people that want to continue to be rebellious, y'all gonna destroy them. We gonna allow the nations to destroy them. That's why when we see our brothers and sisters going off in the prison, being shot down in the street, I'm not going to shed no tear for you, for the simple fact is, this is the will of Yah. Yah has already said these things are going to happen. And then as for us that's going to escape out of America, he said, as soon as I get you out there in that wilderness, all them rebels of your people who just bent on being damn hard-headed, I'm going to kill them niggas right out there in the wilderness. And I'm just saying, that's my word. But Yah say out there in the wilderness, and we read it earlier, I'm going to slay you out there in the wilderness. That's what he said. I'm going to cause you to pass up under my rod, and I'm going to examine you. And all them that's hard-headed, that's bent, don't want to do what they want to do and not going to listen to me, he said, I ain't worried about it, because right there, that's where you going to lay at, right out there in that wilderness, because you ain't going into the promised land. You're not even going to step foot in it. And y'all meant that. That's why only 144,000 out of our people being numbered in the millions. Only 144,000 of our people going to be saved. And that's 12,000 for each one of our tribes.
So, okay.
12,000.
Well, listen.
So y'all letting our people know, as just like he said, though you may be as numerous as the stars of heaven, only a remnant gonna return. Only a remnant I'm gonna save. Because our people are hard-headed and stiff-necked. But he ain't concerned about them that's hard-headed and stiff-necked because he's already pronounced his judgment. I'm going to kill you. And I'm going to allow the nations to kill you. But as for those who turn to me and seek my faith and follow my decrees, keep my ways, I'm going to be your power and you're going to be my people. Whoever mess with you, I'm going to mess with them. They going to know that, hey, we better mess with these people because the Almighty is with them.
All right. Well, listen.
So it's not for everybody. That's why we can take the script all across the whole known world. But as for our people, it's only a remnant that's going to believe it, adhere to it, research, learn it, get it into their system, put away all the stuff that they've been doing, and turn back. They're going to recognize that, hey, we are the children of the Almighty. We've sinned. We've acted wickedly. We've done everything worse. We've done even worse than our forefathers, and we deserve everything that we're getting by the hands of our enemies.
All right.
But those are the ones who y'all is going to show favor to.
Right.
As for the rest of our people they not even going to give a darn. They going to cast the book behind their back, going to throw it to the ground. You know, they ain't thinking about this.
Right. Well, listen. I want to thank you and for taking time with me to go over this. I really, really, really appreciate it. Your time on this because, that meant a lot to me.
Praise God.
Before I go, how would I, and I asked this earlier before you came in, but how would I, if I introduced you, as a person, again, I know talked about how she doesn't like to be called a scholar. But, if I introduced you, what would you say about yourself? How would I introduce you? And I say that because, let me tell you this, I talk about, I talk about a lot when I talk to some of my friends, and these are, like, the people who I talk to, they're really awakened. They're people who know. You understand what I'm saying? And they have knowledge in areas of certain other things that are going on in the world. And and the Bible or the book, they might not totally be familiar with, but they're awakened and they want to know what's going on. So and I always reference when I talk to this because she's helped to enlighten me on a lot of things with respect to the Bible. So that's why I was asking, when I talk, about her, I like, I want to know what she feels is the best way to describe her. And that's why I was asking you, what would you say?
Best way I can describe myself as all I could ever want to be is an obedient son and a faithful servant. And I found myself as a Messianic Hebrew. That's what I am. I'm a Hebrew that believes in the Messiah, meaning I believe that the Messiah has come in the flesh. I believe that he has died and was resurrected and has ascended back to heaven and sits at the right hand of the Father and has fulfilled all those prophecies that the prophets said that he would come and do. So I would say I am a Messianic Hebrew.
Wonderful. All right, a Messianic Hebrew. And my two cousins over there, I sure do appreciate y'all taking time with me, and we'll talk soon. Thank you all so much.
Outstanding.
Okay.
All right, talk to y'all soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.